Jackie and I are driving to Campo, California, but along the way, she had never seen the Grand Canyon, so here we are. I posted on the community board a few days back about just asking me some questions before I hit the trail, and now that there's some people who followed the channel, I figured I'd do one of these. They seem kind of fun, and I was curious what questions y'all had. So let's get into the first one. Could you tell us with whom you served in your military service? What about footwear? Are you wearing zero-drop shoes? Lastly, what is your resupply strategy? For starters, I started in the Army, and I was an air traffic controller. So in the Army, air traffic controllers go into fields and tactical spots, and they basically clear landing zones for helicopters, and sometimes they control fixed-wing aircraft, meaning like airplanes, out at controlled airfields. So what I would do is I would go in, basically clear brush, I would measure certain azimuths, set up radar, and then I would talk to the helicopters and guide them down safely in inclement weather. After the Army, I joined the Air Force, and I was a hazmat joint inspector. So what I would do is I would basically take any kind of cargo from the Marines, the Navy, the Army, it didn't matter what branch, I would inspect it and make sure that it was going on the plane correctly so that there was no mishaps in flight when it came to the center of gravity, or there was no harsh chemicals that were mixed together like flammables and explosives, etc. It was a really cool job because I got to work with a lot of really awesome people. I got to work with Special Forces, and I got to work with the SEALs. I even got to get attacked by the Navy SEAL German Shepherd in the bodysuit, which was really, really cool. So overall, I really liked that job a lot, even though it was kind of tedious and it would take a long time because I had to inspect every single piece of equipment. Am I wearing zero-drop shoes? Yes, I am. I am an absolute fan of the Ultra Lone Peak series. I've hiked the 5s, the 6s, and I think I have a pair of 7s that'll be ready for me to change out on trail because these guys are getting pretty worn down, but I'm hoping to get a few hundred miles out of them. I like zero drop because it strengthens your foot muscles, and I've always just had a really good response out of them. I have flat feet, which I think ironically isn't great for zero drop shoes, but these have always worked great for me, and I don't want to switch to something else if, it ain't broke, don't fix it. So my resupply strategy, really simple. I bought about 1,200 miles of food, and Jackie is going to help ship that to me in advance with resupply boxes, etc. And then from time to time, I might resupply in towns. So I'm honestly kind of winging it. I'm not really going super strict, and having Jackie to mail and support me packages is really, really helpful. How will you make sure you don't overdo yourself on mileage and push too hard initially out of pure joy that you started? This is a great question because I know I'm going to struggle with this. I'm going to be really, really excited to get out there. I've been just itching for the last 3 weeks. It felt like I was in some sort of purgatory, like waiting and prepping for the trail, and do I have everything? And then once I realized that I did, I was just waiting to hike. So now that I'm only a few days away, I'm just chomping at the bit to get on trail and start pushing miles. But I know for a fact that I don't have the same trail legs that I did last season. So I'm going to try and just limit myself from getting overexcited. I know that I have plenty of time out there, and there's plenty of miles to push, and there's going to be a lot of long days ahead. So I think keeping that in mind at the beginning, and even if I feel good doing 15 or 20, I'm just going to limit myself to that because I'm only trying to get to a certain point by May 2nd because I have a friend who's getting married in Mexico. So I'm hoping to just get to Idlewild or really that surrounding area, so I don't really have to go too hard in the beginning. I think that's also going to help me hold myself back from trying to just be too excited and push too many miles, because I know that for a fact that's how most injuries on the PCT happen, are people going out too strong in the very beginning, which I could very well see myself having that problem. How is the recovery still going from the surgery you had recently? Back to tip-top shape? Yes and no. I definitely have done some 15-mile days, some 20-mile days, and I feel pretty good, besides being just kind of sore and not having my trail legs under me yet. But the surgery went really, really good. I was driving with Jackie, and it was funny because she mentioned something about this being the first time she had driven with me and I had a healthy back, because before I couldn't even sit down in that driving position for more than 30 minutes to an hour without my sciatic nerve screaming at me. So the whole point of that surgery was to get my herniated disc off the nerve, which Dr. Wong did very, very well. And now it's just a matter of actually walking and strengthening it up physically. But overall, it feels good. I'd say I'm at 90% of what I was before everything, and that's just because I do get some nerve tingling and sensations and kind of get a sore left calf easily because those nerve endings are still healing in my leg. What are some ways that you stay present and mindful for each day while balancing that with being ready and prepared for your next few days? I sometimes can balance that really well and other days not so much, and I'm always curious how others handle that. So this is a really hard thing to accomplish, and I'm by no means perfect at it, or even I'd say really great at it. The best thing for me to stay present in my day-to-day was I just kind of stuck to my routine. I woke up, I went to the gym, I ran my usual errands, I just did my things around the house, and I didn't try and focus on the trail's only 2 days away or the trail's only a week away. And I also tried not to think about too much of, did I prepare everything? Is everything perfect? I think part of the thru-hike is just letting go of that and understanding that no matter how much I prepared or no matter what precautions I take, there are going to be multiple obstacles that hit me that I'm not aware of. And kind of expecting that unexpected, I think that will keep me more mentally sound and just ready for those situations in general. So I prepared in a practical way, right? I thought about resupply a little bit. I thought about my gear, and I thought about snow training and some other things that will be somewhat unique to this year. But I didn't over stress on it. So once I felt prepared, I left it at that, and then I just tried to stay in my routine. And that's how I kind of stayed present, but not too forward looking in the fact that the thru-hike was coming up. And to Mary, I don't know if that really answered your question in the way that you thought, but the other way I took this question to be is, how would I stay present on trail while balancing the next few days on trail? And for that, I would just say I developed a really, really good mindset during deployment, where at the beginning I thought about every single day and I counted down only 180 more days, only 179 more days. And what I realized with that strategy is it really just drives people insane, and it really doesn't help you at all from a mental standpoint or a physical standpoint, and it's really just torture. So what I do now is I just think about today is today, and tomorrow will be tomorrow. And obviously you have to have some planning in between, but I try not to think too far ahead because I find that it just leads to unnecessary worrying and anxiety, and just it's probably going to be out of your control. So I try to just stay within a relatively short window, and I really just try to think, hey, today is today, and then I will tackle tomorrow when it gets here. And that mindset changed everything for me during deployment, and the time started to just fly by. So I imagine during the thru-hike, there will be times where it gets like that, where I want to say, there's only 1,200 miles left. There's only, 1,050 left. And that's just going to make the thru-hike unenjoyable. So I'm really not going to think about that. I'm just going to try and enjoy every day on trail, because I know that when it ends or when it's coming to an end, I'll miss it and I'll wish I was still out there. So I'm going to try and hold that mindset, and hopefully that keeps me really present and just mindful of the experience on trail. Is there a section that you're most looking forward to? And I would say yes. I have always really wanted to hike in the Cascades, and more specifically the Goat Rock Wilderness. I've never really got to hike Oregon. I've never got to hike Washington. And all of the videos that I've seen of people backpacking and just being in those wilderness areas, they just look so beautiful. Like the Cascades just have rolling meadows and sharp peaks and just luscious wildflowers and butterflies. It just looks magical. It looks like a crazy place, and I've always wanted to do the Wonderland Trail as well. So I think just being infatuated with that area, You know, I used to live in the Bay Area, so I got to hike a lot of Tahoe, and I've been in the Sierras, and those places are amazing. But I just think I'm really looking forward to Washington the most, and I hope that I get to hit it in a drier time of the year. Thank you everyone who asked a question, and I hope that I answered them. And I'm gonna keep driving. We're gonna head down to possibly Joshua Tree and maybe Flagstaff and make a whole trip out of it. But by the time you watch this, I will probably be touching the southern terminus and starting the through hike of the Pacific Crest Trail. So thank you always for watching, and I will see you all very soon.